Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am finally doing my 2018 favorites video. I've been putting this off because there's just a lot to talk about. Usually I only have like 6 books to talk about in this. This time I have 10. So yes, we have 10 to talk about today. I'm finally just like, we have to do this now because we, as I've mentioned in previous videos, are packing our house to put it on the market. And the books have got to get packed. I did tell my husband I wouldn't pack my to be read shelf, that those we'd have to use for like staging and stuff because I don't want those to be inaccessible to me because we don't know how long the house is going to stay on the market. So there's that. But yes, so without further ado, let's jump into the books. So the first one is actually the one that I think I'll have least to say about, and not because I don't have a lot to say about it, but because it is the last book in a really long arc, so there's not a lot I can say that wouldn't be spoilery. So that is going to be this one, which is Assassin's Fate by Robin Hobb. It is the 3rd book in the Fits in the Fool trilogy, but it is the 12th book in the Realm of the Elderlings arc. So this was fantastic. It was a beautiful culmination to the Realm of the Elderlings, and I'm sad that it's over because I love that world and those characters. I loved how this trilogy especially started to bring pieces together from the Rainwilds and Bingtown and all the other ones. So like basically the Fits in the Fool books and the Live Ship Traders and the Rainwild Chronicles. It merged all of those worlds. Like all of the stuff that we've been learning starts to piece itself together in the bigger puzzle, and you start to understand what's happening, what happened, and all these other significant things. So very interesting. Loved it. I listened to the audiobook as always, and it was phenomenal. And then I'm going to talk about the next two as a pair. They are the 2 books that I had not read at the beginning of this year by Becky Chambers. So A Closed and Common Orbit, which is the 2nd one that was released, and then A Record of a Spaceborne View. And I love all 3 of the books that are in this kind of like companion trilogy right now. This one is, so it's dual perspectives, and it follows 2 characters that we meet in the 1st book, and you learn more about them, and you learn kind of about, you just get more details about the world and different facets of it. So what I love about Becky Chambers' books is that they're all interrelated, and in my opinion you do need to read them in publication order, because I feel like there are things that you would miss if you didn't do that. And this one I just thought was really interesting in the way that it talked about how we treat robots and humans and some intersecting issues because of the 2 characters and who they are. Can't really say much more than that because otherwise I'm just like spouting spoilers, but I just thought this was really well done, and I love how Becky Chambers has this huge world that you can tell there's so much left to be explored. And then the 2nd one, or 3rd one, I feel like this is my favorite. This talks about the Exodus fleet and basically the humans who left Earth and then are still living in spaceships instead of kind of integrating into the rest of the universe, basically, or the, I'm blanking on what they call the, like, Federation of Species or whatever. But essentially, this is about the Exodus fleet, and I mean, it just feels like, you know, if we could ever actually get to that point in technology, it feels like where the human race could end up. And I just thought it was super interesting. The interconnectedness, the dependence on each other was fascinating, and just sort of the character dynamics of somebody who wasn't born to the Exodus fleet and their impression of it, and the people in the Exodus fleet, their impression of that person. And it just, I don't know, there was a lot of really interesting things addressed in this. So I love both of these, and I really just think that Becky Chambers, her books make you think, and I love that. And then a nonfiction book that I loved was The Little Bookshop at Big Stone Gap, and this is about a bookshop that is in Virginia, and it's in like a really rural community, and it talks about you know, opening a bookshop, especially in a community where the business owners and the people are very established, have been part of this community for a long time, and these outsiders are coming in and building a business, and how the community treats outsiders, and kind of the perseverance that it takes in that situation, but also the perseverance that it takes in opening a business, in running a bookshop, just a lot of things that you wouldn't think would be involved with being a bookshop owner or a bookseller. And I just loved all her anecdotes, her humor, her writing style was really great. This is one, definitely people who are interested in books about books, or if you're interested in opening your own bookstore, I think that this is a really great read for both of those types of people. And then I did reread Bel Canto this year and absolutely loved it. I actually have a video of my experience of rereading Bel Canto, which I will link in the cards for you if you want to check that out. I go into a lot more detail. Bel Canto is one of my favorite books. I wanted to reread it this year because I wanted to make sure that that was still the case, that I wasn't telling people I love a book that I haven't read in years and years and years, because I think it had been 10 years since I'd read it the first time, and it definitely holds up. The audiobook, which is how I interacted with it this time, the audiobook was fantastic, and I even didn't hate the epilogue nearly as much as I hated it the first time, so there's that. But the story of Bel Canto is basically this group of people, most of them are diplomats or politicians of some sort, that are at a birthday party for, so it's a Japanese businessman's birthday, and they're all at this vice president's house at this dinner when these terrorists take over the house and take all these people hostage. And it's about the relationships of captor to captee, is that the right terminology? Basically, it's just about like that dynamic. It's about the dynamic of all these people who don't speak a similar language, because a lot of them did not speak the same language and don't really have a way to communicate except for through the translator. And it's about just like the relationships that build, and it's also very much about music, and I loved it the second time as much as or more than the first time, so definitely love it. Check that video out if you want to hear more about that. A young adult novel that I really enjoyed this year was the second one in the Timekeeper series by Tara Sim. This is Chainbreaker, and it's a story about basically they're clock mechanics and clock spirits, and it's about this kind of dynamic between time and the world. And so you have these characters, and it's set in like a alternate London that, I'm trying to think of what time frame it would be in, but it feels a little steampunky, I guess. The first book is set in London or in the cities surrounding London. It has to do with this boy Danny, who's a clock mechanic, who's basically trying to solve this mystery because these towns keep stopping, and trying to kind of figure that out. And then the second book carries on with Danny's story, but in a different way. We get a new location or new locale. We start to get a little bit more information about the people who are against the preservation of these clock towers, and we get more information about clock spirits, and we actually get a perspective from a clock spirit. So I thought that this one actually was so much stronger than the first one. So I feel like a lot of times the second book in a series is more like filler, but this one was absolutely not that. I was riveted through the whole thing. I actually did listen to the audiobook of this, and the narrator was fantastic. And I just thought that there was enough, there was so much new information. There was the added intrigue of the new setting and introduction of like the counterpart of these clock mechanics but in another country, and there was all this cultural kind of information, and it just, I don't know, I just thought this was a knockout. So I'm really excited. The third one comes out actually on the 15th of January, so very, very soon, and I've pre-ordered it, so it's going to show up on my doorstep the day that it comes out, and I can't wait to read it. So yes, I would highly recommend this series if you're looking for a new YA series. And then we'll move on to middle grade, and it comes as no surprise that I absolutely adored Nevermore. This was probably one of my favorite reads of the year. I just thought it was so whimsical and fun, and it was a book that you could really like get into the atmosphere of it and just kind of feel a part of it. And I don't feel like I need to say a whole lot about it because I feel like everybody on booktube has been talking about it. But it is the story of Morgan Crow, and she thinks she's cursed, and she thinks she's gonna die basically at this appointed time, and then she gets whisked away to this crazy, bizarre world called Nevermore, and enters into these trials to become part of this wondrous society. So it's just kooky and funny and heartwarming, and I really love it. I would say this gets compared a lot of times to Harry Potter, and I understand the spirit of the comparison, but what I would say is that this is more like this generation's Harry Potter. So this is to this generation what Harry Potter was to my generation, and I think that this is something that will have such lasting power for people that are in this age group when they are reading them and these books are coming out. So I love that about it, because I remember just how much I loved the whole experience of reading Harry Potter and being the same age as the characters. So I think that that's really an exciting, fun thing. But I personally don't think that the characters or the setting or the plot really have much mirror to Harry Potter. So don't go into it thinking you're getting something like that. There is that magical atmosphere in a way, but even that feels different. So that's just my 2 cents on that comparison. And then actually one of the first books that I read this year was Neon Green by Margaret Wappler, and this book has really stuck with me all year. Like every time I see the cover, I get excited because I just thought this was such an interesting book. So this is about a family that they win a contest. This alien spaceship comes and lands in their backyard and is there to stay. The aliens are they don't interact with the humans. They're just there. The ship's in the backyard. They never come out of the ship. And the dad is like this hyper environmentalist and didn't want anything to do with this. He thinks they're poisonous. He thinks they're, you know, causing all these problems. He's doing all these experiments and keeping this diary, and the kids are just sort of like, whatever. And it's about the contention that causes, and just like how the family is dealing with that. And then it starts to dig into these deeper issues, and just like the resolution of what you find out in the end, and how basically how it built up to this one point, and you thought it was going one way, and then you find out something in the end, was just really well done. And I thought that this really did a good job of addressing some pretty serious issues. I would say that trigger warning for cancer, because there is some pretty graphic depictions of cancer in here, and so I think that anybody who is sensitive to that or has a loved one that has gone through that recently, that might be a sensitive point for this. So that's just one thing I always like to mention when talking about this book. But yeah, I'm a big fan of how this was written and the kind of issues it addresses, and how it does that in sort of a lighthearted way, but also in a very serious way as well. So yes. I've got 2 more books for you. The first of those is Snowdrift and Other Stories by Georgette Eyre, and I really am surprised by this. So this was a book that I found through the Broken the Bookish Secret Santa exchange, and I actually bought this for my Secret Santa, but I read the first story and was like, I like this. I want to read this right now. So I bought myself a copy of it, and I just had such fun reading this. Like, these were such whimsical, hilarious, lighthearted, just like warm and fuzzy stories. And so it came at a really good time when I wanted something super lighthearted and easy to read around the holidays. And yeah, it's just like Regency, I guess, romances, and there's no like heavy duty love scenes or anything in there. It's all very like sweet and like demure, and like when it gets to the point where it could get steamy, the story usually ends. So if you're looking for that, that's not going to be what this book is about. But if you're just looking for something warm and fuzzy and like little romance stories, then I would definitely recommend this as a good pick. So, and last is probably my favorite book of 2018. The rest of these were in no particular order, but I feel like this one really does come in at the top, and that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is fantastic. It is getting all the hype, and it definitely deserves it, in my opinion. I feel like this is really well written. It's a dual perspective story. We have a reporter, and then we have this kind of interviewing Evelyn, and then we have Evelyn telling her own story. And we just get to see all of the kind of relationships and dynamics between her and her 7 husbands. We get to see her climb to fame and her inner monologue about everything going on in her life. We get to see her own personal struggles, and I think it does a really great job dealing with sexuality, and especially bisexuality. It does a great job of exploring what the dynamic of relationships looks like for people who identify as bisexual. So I loved that about it. I've talked about it more in my Instagram Chooses My Hashtag video, so if you want more information, you can go check that out. But honestly, I would just say that if you're looking for a historical fiction, if you like Hollywood era stuff, this is a beautiful pick, and it deserves all the hype. So my battery is flashing because I've been talking for so long, so I'm going to wrap this up quickly. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you read any of these. I would love to hear your thoughts. Give this a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time.